Welcome, everybody, to the Yo Kids Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Gargano. This is the podcast that surrounds everything youth sports. So I've covered pro and college sports, the highest level, and I have fallen in love with youth sports. I'm a big believer in sports for children. I just think it's such a great outlet and keeps them out of trouble, they learn so many great life lessons. So as we go forward with the podcast, we're going to be talking to a lot of different people in the world of youth sports. We'll talk to some professional athletes who have children of themselves. We'll talk about the journey of the athlete. We'll highlight some of the terrific youth sports athletes across the Delaware Valley and beyond. But really, we really wanted to try to give some advice to the parents. Listen, if you got a good story, good idea, please, like I said, hit me up and we'll get to Yo Kids Sports Podcast. Right, welcome. I'm so excited today as with me on Yo Kids Sports is one of the great football men, a great man that I just cherish. And I thought he would be great to give some wisdom, especially about football, about teaching kids. He was a teacher. He was a coach. Rich McDermott. What do you say, Rich? How are you?
Hi, Anthony. Thank you. Honored to be here, and hopefully I could, lend a morsel to parents out there of some of the trials and tribulations my wife and I went through with these kids in youth sports. So,
I mean, it was all party, right? I mean, you lived it as a teacher and a coach.
Yes.
Could you tell us about, your experiences and, from when you first started in the field?
As far as me coaching or with the boys being involved?
Yeah, just for you as a coach first.
Me as a coach first. I started out in Omaha, Nebraska, and as a health and phys ed teacher, and worked my way up into the Omaha public school system. And actually, Anthony, I was at a high school called Central High School, and the claim to fame there was where Gail Sayers played. So
wow,
yeah, and we actually had Gail's stepson on our team, was a part of our team. So, and it was we sent quite a few guys to the NFL, things like that. So it was a good school. And then I came back to Westchester and started coaching there, Division II. And then from there, moved on to Ursinus Division III. And eventually, I guess I became too old for the game. And
never.
I just became a parent and sat in the grandstands and watched other people do a much better job than I did. So,
how did you, when your boys first started getting into sports, did you push them into it? Was it a natural kind of thing for them? How did it all begin?
I think the first thing was when we were in a suburban school district, the Great Valley School District. Sean came home with a sign-up letter that was handed out in his school about signing up for wrestling. And, what was this? Let's do something other than wrestling, and they both signed up, and my wife took them. I was coaching at the time at Westchester, and she took them, got them involved, and that's how it started. And then from there, it was a typical, they both liked baseball. We did baseball, and we never did the youth football until a later date, just because I think, all the precautions and everything like that. But soccer, I think the traditional soccer and everything like that. But we entrusted, I think the thing here would be, we entrusted the people, the organization, of the associations, the community groups, that they would put the men and women in place to do a good job. And I have to say they did,
And don't forget, our Yo Kids Sports Podcast is presented by Primo Hoagies. Listen, know what I've always said for years and years and years. It's not just a hoagie, it's a Primo. And this fall, whether you're tailgating, football, soccer, it's youth, you name it, make sure you got your Primo Hoagie party tray. Nothing like it for the big game. And speaking of football and the big game, this fall, we're giving away a trip to Vegas to see the very big game to one very lucky, very deserving coach. So if you know a youth coach that you think deserves recognition for their outstanding dedication and passion. Make your nominations today. PrimoHoagies.com. You can go directly mvc.primohoagies.com. Our most valuable coach promotion here at Primos. I love it. We got to shine some love, give some love to these youth coaches that spend their time, many of whom just getting their full and no compensation. So they're the best. Nominate your favorite coach. Again, it's the Primo Hoagies most valuable coach contest. I love it. I think it's great. And who knows, maybe they'll get to see the birds at the big game. Wouldn't that be something?
It's interesting because it brings us to the conversation of football. Now, the fascinating thing is that you were a football coach, a college football coach. Your son is now coach of the Buffalo Bills. When is the age did you think that was right to start football?
I think we were, I guess, in about third grade, fourth grade, and it was more of his buddies were doing it, and the peer pressure of mom and dad, come on, let me do it, blah, blah, blah. And we did know the coaches, few of the coaches, and thought they were good men, and that they would come with a good philosophy and strong organizational skills, and were able to communicate what they wanted to do with the kids, et cetera. So we said, okay, let's do it. And, it worked out. I can't say that. Actually, Sean broke his leg in football. And
okay.
I was at Ursinus College at the time and got a knock. We were in a staff meeting, got a knock on the door, and he was playing in Roxborough that night. And they said, we've sent your son to the hospital. He's going to have his leg set, and be a surgeon there, all that type of stuff. And I said, wow. So that was like, did I make the wrong mistake? Because here's my kid, I guess third, fourth grade with a broken leg. So
wow,
yeah,
and here you are, who a college football coach. And I'm like, I'm sure it didn't seem. I don't know. Did your wife was she against it from an early age, or was she with you? I mean, it's interesting that you would actually question, because it is a part of the game. God forbid at that age, but still, it is a part of the game.
Yeah, no, she was all for it. She was 100%. And our philosophy is, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it 100%. You aren't going to miss practices. You're not going to, make excuses. You don't go here. If we're going to go 100%, because you'll get better. You'll learn more. You'll be fundamentally sounder. And then hopefully this will carry over to the game on Saturday, Sunday, whenever. And, something like this, it was a freak accident, but something like this won't happen, So, but yeah.
Did you think at that point that he was going to be done playing?
I did for a while, with the growth plate and all that type of stuff, and I thought, wow, how's this going to impact him with general movement, everything like that. And then like everything else, we took him to specialist therapies, PT, thing like that. And it worked out. He was fine. Anthony, just a side thing, Tim was the quarterback at the local high school here. And just in a basic handoff drill, running back went to put his arms up, to take the ball.
Sure.
And the elbow went through, how small those face masks are, through his face mask and shattered his nose. We had a total reconstruction of his nose.
Wow.
In a little handoff.
Freak accident.
Oh. So, I mean, anything could happen, and that's so, I mean, there were two situations where, and especially Tim's non-contact, just
right.
So
what do you tell parents? Like, what advice would you give regarding injuries? Because, it's the biggest fear, especially now, when you see a lot of helicopter parents and everybody's worried. Oh, no. Yeah. Like, what do you, what's your best advice, your best wisdom when it comes to injuries and football?
Well, I think, now it's so much further advanced than the days that when my two were playing. But I think that's where I think you need to investigate wherever they're going to play. If you're going to play with youth group X, what's the league that they're playing in? What's their philosophy? Are they to have fun? Are they where on Saturday afternoon, they're looking up the scoreboard and all they care about is winning? How many nights, well, that, and then the philosophy of the coach, the background of the coach, which I think is so important, then the medical that's put in place. Is there an ambulance there at the practices? Or are we going to have to call somebody? Do we have defibrillators? Is there a person there that can lead stretching, that knows about stretching, knows about conditioning, not somebody that hasn't upgraded their knowledge of what they should be doing with children, with youth people in 20, 25 years. And then, what's a practice like? What type of drills are going to be doing? And then the communication of the whole thing. So I think before, this to me is more of a big general thing that where the medical falls into this big piece of the pie. I want to know how cognitive that head coach and his staff are of injuries and injury prevention, stretching, conditioning, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's what you have to be aware of, So just that we're not going to sit here and run 100-yard gassers in an 88-degree humidity.
Right.
This is crazy, or we're going to do Oklahoma drills or suicide, So,
I mean, it's amazing how everything's kind of changed for the better when it comes to training camp. I mean, geez, I mean, you saw it. I mean, you saw from the late 90s, up until the late 90s, early 2000s, where, coaches would, I mean, when I played, it was coaches would, they would use water as a carrot. Like they dangle it. Oh, you want to drink? You got to, and now it's completely different. And they're cognizant of weather, of dehydration and all that stuff.
And I think just for a second about the injury status, I mean, how many people, you, me, probably my kids, had a concussion, didn't know it. They came over with the smelling salts and stuck it under your nose and go back in and play, but
totally.
But you are right on, spot on. We're so much better now, so much better that I would find it hard to believe that anything like that exists. I would hope it wouldn't.
Where's your philosophy when it comes to winning in youth football throughout? I mean, you have Pee Wee and up through high school, and then when it comes to winning, balancing winning and teaching the game and having fun and all that stuff. Where's your philosophy lie?
I think that in the beginning years, we've got to be the 3-letter word fun, and it has to be fun. Somehow you have to incorporate fun into the practice. And I've talked that with the boys and, different things that over the years that they've incorporated, that we've incorporated, and how you can mesh conditioning things into our practice, just for example, real quick, we would have a tug of war. Well, but here's strength against strength, but you don't know, and then we would have like little ladder drills, cone drills, lineman against lineman, backs against back. But, it's the competition. It's not, that builds that fun play. Take your shirt, take your pads off, play dodgeball at the end of practice, things like that the kids have fun at the end. The unfortunate thing is is that now the parents go and they hire the specialization coach. I hire the passing coach. I hire the kicking coach. I hire the receiving coach, and, Coach McDermott comes here with this knowledge, but yet someone much, much better, is hanging out over here and saying that Coach McDermott really isn't that knowledgeable in what he's teaching you.
Right.
So now we have a gap in who do I believe and, who am I going to listen to? And I think this is a huge problem because you could find a specialization coach. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
It's a big part of it.
Any sport you're going to. And I don't see anything wrong with that, but I mean, now that takes away, I think, from that man or woman that's out there. But yet, a lot of people say, hey, my kid's local team is okay, but the travel team's phenomenal. They have coaches from here. You should see their AAU travel team in 5th grade, 6th grade. You should see their travel team in lacrosse or soccer or whatever. I mean, some of my good friends, their kids are doing lacrosse and they have face-off coaches that, you just go and do face-offs, So I guess the thing about it is at what point does the W's and the L's start to enter? Most of the time they say in 7th grade, we have over a 50% drop off of kids that played youth sports no longer continue because we're in middle school, junior high, right? We no longer continue playing. We know why? Because of the big C, the commitment. Now we want, you got to be committed. You got to be practicing instead maybe 2 nights a week. Kids, yeah, all those kids, Anthony, that were playing youth sports no longer continue because now it's a full-time gig. Now we're playing for middle school X, junior high X, and I'm out there 4 or 5 days a week. I'm hitting that sled. I'm doing this, and, it's a different thing. And my coach wants to win on Thursday or Friday afternoon compared to it's just a fun type thing. The senior high school coach is coming down to talk to us, things like that. And it's getting lesser and lesser where you as a kid growing up might have played 2 or 3 sports. My goodness, now it's hard to find a kid in 7th grade that plays more than 1 sport, right?
Yep.
And that's where we are. And I'm not saying.
And there's a pressure.
Yeah.
Right, but there's a pressure too, Rich, to keep up. Right? Mm-hmm. Like the baseball coach says, hey, man, you got to play fall ball. You can't play football. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, it's a cycle that goes around with each and every sport. And God forbid you play hockey. You got to play hockey all year round just to keep up.
So Moss is pitching. So he plays in the spring and in the summer. He gets done. And now we got fall ball, right? And you want him to do there. Well, maybe now we have football. Well, wait a minute, And at what point do we say, hey, it's either got to be A, B, or C, but not D, all the above, right?
Exactly.
It's hard.
How do you choose? Like, I mean, as a parent, when you guide if you see that a child has got a natural proclivity, could be, it's got some potential. Mm-hmm. How do you balance, almost choosing for them, knowing that they could have a future versus maybe their interest lies in another sport that they're not that good at or not as good at?
Yeah, it's hard. I think that's where the lines of communication between the parent and the child have to be really extensive because, I don't want my kids to do something that because I'm reliving it through them. I want them to do something that they want to do. But then if we're talking about moving on to that scholarship type level, what's their best chances? If that's their objective, and hey, look, it's hard, but I just don't know that many kids anymore that are 2-sport athletes.
Yeah. And you could use skills. Listen, if you're a wide receiver, it sure helps playing the outfield in baseball because, absolutely, you learn how to track a ball. Little things like the mimics movement that helps in other sports.
Yeah. No, I think that the baseball and the football, I know with Tim, the baseball, because he was a pitcher and a shortstop, helped him be with the quarterback and everything. I think that goes hand in hand. I think maybe the wrestling helped Sean because of being a defensive back, tackling people, things like that. But gosh, it's the amount of, I think, pressure when I go to these facilities watch my grandchildren play, Anthony. They're phenomenal facilities, and they're packed with kids basically playing 1 sport, from 5th, 6th grade, middle school on up, So it's hard. It's really hard.
How old are the grandkids when you're watching them play?
10 and 12 up in New York and 10 and 12 down here in Westchester. So,
and which sports are they involved in?
Well, Sean's are softball and what is she? Softball, cross country, and volleyball. And that's going to have to come to a screeching halt because, the softball's indoor and the fall indoor here,
Right.
And his other guy is right now, he's a 5th grader. He's playing 3 sports, but he hasn't played football yet. So he's hoping this year his dad lets him play. And Tim's kids are, Tim's got one, she's just doing field hockey. And then his other one is is doing wrestling, lacrosse, and football, but that's way too big right now, and that wideness is going to have to be deviated down to a more concise lane. One or two sports. He just can't.
You can't do it. You're right.
Welcome to Primo. How can we help you today?
One old-fashioned meatball, and make it quick, because I got practice.
You got it. Coach?
Congratulations, Coach!
You've been nominated by your team to win 2 tickets to the big game!
Wait, nominated? So I didn't win?
Smile.
Not yet, Coach.
Most valuable
Not
coach.
yet.
Smile,
Not
coach.
yet.
Smile.
Come on, smile.
Smile for the cameras,
Smile.
coach.
You got to be kidding me.
Smile, coach.
How did you balance? Like, here you are. Listen, you're a really good coach, and when you have your son and now your grandchildren involved in sports, especially football, right? Like, so you have a grandson who plays football. You had 2 boys who played football. How did you balance teaching them? Because, chances are you probably knew more than the coach did. So how do you balance teaching them and not kind of overstepping the boundary as dad versus dad coach?
I think that came about initially when what we talked about a few minutes ago was I wanted to find out who their coaches plural were, and see and go to. And now, that these guys are so good and girls are so good. They have, meetings before the season starts, find out. And I could ask questions, and I want to find out who's coaching your defensive backs, what's their background. I want to find out, who it is and everything like that. And, I mean, I don't want me, a big fat guy, to be teaching running back skills if I have no level of experience or expertise in there. Not that it can't be acquired. I'm not saying it can't be, but that's not what I want. I want the best coaching, because you know what happens if you're not getting the best. You're not getting the best instruction. You're going to lose the kid.
Yep.
It's in a classroom. In a subject matter, you're going to lose the kid. So, and coaching is nothing more than teaching, but now out on a court, a field, or a track, or whatever, a diamond. So I want the best person that we could get, that's out there. And that's why I think so many people have gone to, it's not good enough. I'm going to go get more. Maybe.
Is there overload? Is there something?
That's a great word. It's a great word. I think so. Yes. It's a great word. Yeah. I know with my kids that to be more, answer your question. I would send them to camps. Many times. Maybe I would be a guest on the camp staff, so they would go free. But I would send them to camp, and I would bring them to camp, and they would take part. They were ball boys, things like that. But wherever I could get them to watch, observe, or go to camps, and that's what I would do, And that's what I know a lot of guys did my age in their 60s and 70s and stuff. Bring their kids, to camp and be part of the drills, be on the sidelines, things like that. But now, I mean, everybody's securing somebody, to coach them, So
Did you work with the boys? I mean, obviously you're teaching, you're coaching, a bit long days, but you then take the boys out in the backyard and have your own kind of private sessions and
Yeah. I did what I could teach. And
Right.
and I guess one of the smartest things my wife would say I ever did, I finally listened to her and when she said, "Don't teach them anything you don't know," which was a heck of a lot. So Anthony, I'm the world's worst baseball player, and I did what I did, what I could do. You know what I mean? And but I wasn't going to overstep and teach them something wrong. I put faith and trust in the coaches, and I just think it's grown. Goodness gracious, so much now. The level of coaching, you would know better than me, seems to be so good anymore with these kids.
Very sophisticated. It's the thing that's like surprising to when I was a kid and playing, and it's way more sophisticated, way more serious.
Yeah.
And listen, if you love it, it's a blast, right?
Yeah.
But the question is that do the kids is that good? Like I think sometimes you go, wow, man, I wish when I was growing up they had all this and you could play year round and do all this other stuff. But you don't know is if are you pushing them too much? Are because there's a fine line where you go, listen, I know better than the child. It's my job as the parent, but I don't want to, I don't want to kill it for them, right? I don't want to force them to do it every day.
And I guess that's the thing there where you say where now, like with my kids, my sons, their grandchildren, they have the pitch back. They have the lacrosse thing where it comes back and all that type of stuff. So they have these things where we didn't have that.
Right.
On our playground and you shot hoops or, you know what I mean? You didn't have a lot of these targets to throw. You had a tire. My father would tie up and put up an old tire on a tree, throw the football through there, that type of stuff. Where, I mean, now you're right. It's just the training is so much more sophisticated. And at what point is enough, not enough, and, too much, and I'm just a firm believer. You're never going to get better just doing within that confine of the 60-minute period that you're at practice. That if you're just an average athlete, like my kids were, you're going to have to work a little bit harder to be able to get where you want to go, if that's where you want to go.
Sure.
So when you tell me I would like to go do this sport in college, then if you want to do this, I think that maybe you need to consider we need to grow in certain areas so you're a more viable person for a college or university to look at to become a participant in that sport, So anyway, I think that I just think that what's there for like your guys is so outstanding compared to, where it was years ago for you,
Did you look when you watch kids play? Does it just pop out to you?
Well, if I have my glasses on, no, but I think Anthony, that's something this you could just tell that kid that has that hops to him, that it to him, he's always nasty. Oh, you know what I mean? And he's got that burst to him. I think it's diminished because of my eyesight, but I think you could still see it. And
it's interesting, right? Like they pop off to you, right? Like that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly,
such a fascinating. I always think science, like we apply it all the time to draft or the college recruiting or whatever it is. But there's something that you see the kid, you go, oh man, look at the way this kid does X, Y, or Z, and it's a fun thing. I know you probably get excited when you to this day when you see a kid that's got it.
And I think that's where, and I think you made a great point there. That's where that you find that kid, and if you're a good coach, wow, I want to develop that kid. I want to bring he or she to the best that they can do, and whatever the sport is, and I think that's the that's the fun part of it. I want to maximize their abilities, and I think that's neat. And as long as the student athlete, the young lady, young man is on board, there's nothing wrong with that, See, I think that whole thing about the youth sports, and I'm sure the boys are experiencing this now in Jersey, that they go to their baseball practices, their football practices, and everything like that. They got buddies, and now they're coming over, staying over Saturday night. They're sleeping over. They're going over their place, and it becomes that bond, that youth sports is there, that it gives you, and maybe the kid's never going to play at Penn State or something like that, but it's a fun thing. You have a lot of kids sharing a mutual interest, right? A common interest, and you develop good relationships with families, and it's neat.
It feels like such a big part, in a good way, the fabric of a community, right? Like it fosters the togetherness. It fosters, like you said, family, and really kind of, we call it all American, right? Like those Friday nights at a game, and everybody has their little pizza party after, and it's that whole thing. It's which I think is really important. It's a good part of our culture of Americana.
Absolutely, and I think another neat thing is there where you have a kids you have kids from all backgrounds, right? All a diversity, and it's fun. It's
Yeah.
fun. That's how maybe we could grow better as a society if we did more of this.
Yes.
So anyway,
Yes.
it's
Without a doubt.
and I think it's a great thing where when people say about the youth sports and things like that, well, I look at it from the positive side, what it can do, not the negative side. For every kid that quits because they had a bad experience, I feel sorry for that young lady or young man and that type of stuff. But I think at the end it outweighs more than the negative, So
What was your philosophy with, yelling at kids, scolding kids? What's your philosophy? When it comes to discipline, and obviously, every kid's different. But what's your general philosophy regarding that?
I think when are you talking as a coach?
Yeah, actually, but you know what? Both coach and dad. That's actually a great distinction.
As a coach, they became my kids. I felt like in high school, I was very, very involved with them. I was in inner city high school. A lot of kids came from really, really challenging backgrounds and that type of stuff. And when we moved back here, obviously Westchester and Ursinus were different situations, but still they became part of your life. I have a president of one of the local hospitals here played linebacker for me, and he he would come over and get meals, and the linebackers would come over, and my wife would make meals for him. Just taking
awesome.
an interest in him. So Anthony, I loved him. A lot of my guys that I had at Ursinus, even at my age, there's between 5 to 7 of them every year get together with me, and a lot of a couple South Philly guys and some Delco guys, and they take me out, stuff like that. So it's nice. I have one of my guys is a top lawyer in Philly, who's who, all that type of stuff. My point is they never forget you. And it's nice to know that you're a part of life. Now, saying all that, I was fair with them. I tried to be a teacher. And I know that everybody has their way of correcting a mistake. I corrected it right there because once the practice is over, it's hard to grab somebody, say, hey, let's go back 20 minutes, half hour, everything like that. And I think the younger the child, the more important it is just to stop, talk to them in a natural way and make a correction. But the other point is you can't stop at every second to do things. As far as dad, I come from, my father, you didn't do wrong. My report card was laying on his plate when he came home from work. You know what I mean? With all my failures on it. So what is this? But it was the old school upbringing. Let's just say this much,
right?
And that type of stuff. And maybe I'm not going to say maybe because the boys would say this. Dad put a little fear in them. Hey, you're not going to do this because these are the consequences. And was that wrong? Probably in today's society, I'm sure it'd be marked wrong. Okay, but the amount of mistakes that the boys made were minimal. Okay, and the consequences weren't too severe. But it's just the mere fact that you're loved, you come home, you make a mistake, we're going to be here, we're going to hold your hand and get you through this. But gosh darn it, don't do it again. I'm going to kick you in the butt. But with the kids in the coaching and everything like that, never ever swore at a kid or anything. I mean, anything like that. And because the biggest thing is, and I heard Dick Vermeil say this at a coaching clinic. I don't want. When I was younger, I don't want my kid to be coached by anybody that is that abusive and that type of stuff. Never grabbed a kid or anything like that. So, and obviously there's no place for that,
Yeah, it's interesting, right, guys? We see the evolution of coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the on a different level, right? On the college level, from the Bobby Knight school to now, let's take a Jay Wright, who is, it's like the evolution, which is, hey, look, listen, I mean, there are times when you have to be corrected because, they're still, adolescents and they're still growing and they're still not fully matured. So you need to correct them, but there's a different way. And I think, the approach, that like a Jay Wright as opposed to a Bobby Knight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a person that's had an influence with, the guy up in New York, you know what I mean? Talking to him, and when you learn from people like that who have a great demeanor to them and a great methodology of getting their point of instruction across, and then once again, you're going back to that, the three disciplines: philosophy, organization, communication. The person the young man at Nova knows this is the framework, right? This is where I am. There's no, I didn't know this. This is where I am. This is my box, and it's communicated to the nth degree. So
I gotta ask you, because I think it's really profound, and the fact that you raised two very successful boys, and one followed in your footsteps, and it took his career to the ultimate level, the apex of coaching, which is in the NFL. And when Sean went to go coach and said he wanted to pursue this, what was your reaction, and how were you along his own journey?
I think initially, Tim initially, Anthony, when he graduated from Cornell, said that, and he had done internships on Wall Street, et cetera, and said that he was going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm sitting there in football operations. The president of the Jaguars at that time, Mr. Hugh, was a former Cornell football player, and therein lies the connections and all that type of stuff. But anyway, started out down there, and of course I was, thrilled about it and everything like that. And hey, whatever you're going to do 100%. And like anything else, you were nothing more than a graduate assistant, basically, a quality control coach. And so I was excited as he got started, and then just say, hey, you got to hang in, because there's going to be a separation of the people that, hey, I'm working in the NBA, I'm working in the NFL. This is cool. But, you don't like what you're doing. You just say that you're doing, you get your 2 free tickets to the game.
Right.
All that type of stuff. Right. So anyway, when Sean decided to do it and come back and said he wanted to do it, I said, okay, fine. And let's give it a shot and see how long. And both boys said, we're going to put a time limit on this.
Oh, wow.
Sean deferred from a business position in Northern Virginia, and asked for, hey, I want to go with the Eagles for a little bit of time and see what happens. And it worked out. And I mean, not everything's going to be rosy, as and they've both been removed from a local team, and it's not easy, and you move on. And but I think that, and I give all my wife all the credit in the world, that you're there to support them in the highs, and hopefully the lows aren't too significant, that you're there for the lows. But it's like in any other job, right? I mean,
sure,
you need to be there, no matter whether it's sport or business or a doctor or a teacher, whatever, that you're there to support them. I think, Anthony, I said, whatever you're going to do, and we said, whatever you're going to do, you're going to give it 110%. And I think, going back for a second, knowing that was the same philosophy of when you're going to go out for a sport, you're going to give it 110%.
Right.
One of the things I really missed in this conversation was, unless it was something abusive, which would not be stood for. And my wife and I both said, you're not going to go out and then quit. You're going to see this through, whatever you do, and unless it would be a medical issue or something like that. But you're going to see it through, and that was the one thing that I know they have said to their kids, you're going to see it through. We're not quitting, and I don't want that to become a part of your vocabulary, so.
What a great message. Great,
No,
and you know, I can only imagine you and the pride that you feel for both boys, and you know, the pride that you feel when you, as a coach who manned those sidelines, see Sean up at Orchard Park, and you know, in the playoff games and the whole thing. It's got to be an incredible amount of pride for you.
it is. It is. You know, and you see, there's the, and that's where, and I hear you talk on your show, and that's where it's out there for people to do. You get there and you start at rock bottom, and you're able to work your way up. You know, and you know, hopefully people see you and notice you along the way. And he had tremendous mentors, and I don't want to name them all because I'll forget
Right.
somebody, but we all know them. And along the way, and you know, to thank them for getting there. It wasn't his mom and I, it was those people, and deeply indebted to them for seeing something in him and in Tim that got them to that level. And I'm just so thankful that you know what, they're good people, good Christian men, and hopefully they turn around and give opportunities to other young people who are aspiring to come into the field of sports, whether it's soccer, where Tim at the Philadelphia Union, or the Buffalo Bills, you know, and something like that. And don't forget where they came from. You know, I mean, talking to the youth kids, signing autographs, things like that. You know, I was over at my grandson's. Please allow me, if you don't sidetrack for a second here. I was over at my
Please.
grandson's basketball practice, and up in Orchard Park, and two boys were coming out, and Sean was going to practice, and they kept pointing, is that Sean McDermott? Is that Sean McDermott? And he had heard them, and he turned around and came over and took picture after picture with the kids and all that type of stuff. Well, that's makes me happy.
Yes.
Would
Yes.
be happy if he was in the Super Bowl. Yeah. That type of stuff makes me happy, Anthony, that you never forget where you came from. You know,
Amen.
you know,
Amen.
so anyway.
That is beautiful. That is it's a wonderful thing. Rich McDermott, coach,
No,
dad.
you're too kind.
All right, and I got to tell you, I love it, and I'm going to be pestering you again. So
Thank you, buddy.
thanks for your wisdom.
Thank you, buddy. God bless. Thank you. My best.
Hey guys, here at Yo Kid Sports, for Brendan Petrilli and myself, Anthony Gargano, I just want to thank you for hanging on our channel. We love it. All right. We love doing this content. Just do us a solid and hit the subscribe button, because the more people that we can reach, that we can amplify this thing, the better guests, the more content that we can produce. So do us a solid, hit the subscribe, tell your friends, your families, your coaches, get everybody subscribed, because chances are here at Yo Kid Sports, we're going to be talking about your kid or your coach. It's a lot of fun. Hang with us.